Hey, Rick Sayes here. Welcome to Season 3 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, recorded at the Surf City Studios in Costa Mesa, California. I have another great season of interviews with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz to share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks and hacks, and ideas you can use to take your career business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by WordPress. I've used WordPress to build a number of websites, including Stillwater's Consulting and the Outdoor Biz Podcast. There are a number of themes and plugins available both free and for purchase, enabling you to easily create the custom look and feel you want. If you're starting an online business, publishing a blog, and looking to take your online presence to the next level, visit theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/WordPress and get going today. With simple installation tools and thousands of themes to choose from, you'll be up and running in no time. Go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/WordPress and get your site launched today. I had a great conversation with Mario Stanley from HighPoint Expeditions in Dallas, Fort Worth the other day. Mario tells us how he got into climbing, programs offered at HighPoint. He drops a couple of great books on us, and much, much more. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, Mario.
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you on. How's it going today?
Going good. It's going good. It's good morning. Taught my 5 a.m. class, my 5 a.m. boot camp class, and now I having kids showing up for summer camp. So it's a good day so far.
Cool. So what's the 5 a.m. boot camp? Is it like a workout class?
So there is at Summit Climbing Gym, the gym I work at during the day. We have a class called Climb Fit, and we have a 5:30 a.m. to 7 climbing class. I call it boot camp because that's what most people associate early morning classes with. Right. But really it is a strength and conditioning class that's designed to get you better at climbing and mainly help you reach your general fitness goals. And then generally there, it's a launching pad to whatever else you really want to do, whether it's climbing, running, whatever your thing is.
That sounds cool. And you guys are down in Texas, right?
Yeah, in Dallas, Texas. We're actually we have a gym in Fort Worth, Dallas, Denton. So like the whole Metroplex, we pretty much are everywhere.
Wow, very cool. So, what was your first experience in the outdoors? Was that as a kid? How'd you get into climbing outdoors?
Well, my first experience, honestly, was a Boy Scout trip years ago that I barely remember, and it really wasn't that great. But my real major introduction to the outdoors was probably climbing with a buddy of mine a few years ago in the Wichita Wildlife Refuge, which is an area about 3 hours, I want to say, northwest of here. In Lawton, Oklahoma, and it's like a world-renowned spot, or at least it should be a world-renowned spot as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
But hiked out to this area called Elk Slabs in Sharon's Garden, and that was my real experience as far as introduction into rock climbing, camping, like the whole experience of the thing. And so it was pretty awesome. It was quite a few years ago, over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I did my first trad lead out there. The route was called Great Expectations. It was a long route, it's about 100 feet tall. It was 5'5", and at the time then, it was like completely wicked. I was like blown away.
Oh, yeah, if you're a rookie. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was losing my mind. I was like, if this is what rock climbing is about, I'm in.
Yeah, cool. Right on. Did you do any sports or anything, as a kid? I mean, obviously you're in Boy Scouts, so that kind of gets you a little bit of exposure to camping, as what they call camping, I guess.
Yeah, actually, my first love as a sport, I've always been an athletic kid, but my first love was track and field. I ran the Open 8, Open 4, and 300-meter hurdles, and that was my favorite event, the 300-meter hurdles. And, that was the first thing I really did. So that kind of probably set the groundwork for me to enjoy a little bit of suffering, because anybody who's done competitive track and field, it's fun, but it's definitely like kind of type 2 fun a little bit. Like you're hurting afterwards and you really enjoy it, but in the midst of it, you're like, wow.
It's a short sufferfest. If you run short
really
distances, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and as I've gotten older, I just realized I make my sufferfests longer and longer, moving into bigger and bigger routes now. So.
Cool. And did you have a traditional outdoor job? Did you have a first outdoor job?
No, honestly, my first outdoor job was REI. I worked there at the store here in Dallas. It used to be off of Highway 635, and they recently moved down to Loop 12. But that was my real first outdoor job. I would call it as an outdoorsy store or some sort. Yep. And I just turned into a total gearhead. I could tell you everything about a pack. I could tell you, what the what the kilonewtons were per cams and all that other stuff. And I just kind of dove in. Now, I mean, I know it, but I care more about actually using the equipment than knowing every bells and whistles about it. But that was my first job, and kind of really introduced me to the world of the outdoor industry as a whole, realizing that there was an actual massive industry behind this.
Right.
And then also giving me access to just people. I mean, a lot of customers that just came in, I made friends with over the years and climbed with some of them outside, hiked with some of them outside. That's kind of really my main introduction. I think that was like the next major like springboard that this catapulted me into wanting to have a career outside.
Right. Very cool. So you got interested in climbing with your buddy. Did you guys climb other areas? Like, did you guys go on big trips to, I don't know, Yosemite or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, anything like that? Or did you mostly climb the local area?
Yeah. So I've definitely climbed around. And I've always kind of had this thing where I'm a firm believer of having multiple climbing partners, not just one. So my buddy I climbed with back then was named Rob. My current climbing partner I climb with mostly right now is Will Brock, who actually helped me start HighPoint Expeditions.
Oh, cool.
And then I have multiple friends that I climb with. I'm a big fan of that because not everybody's schedules will line up, and I care more about adventuring than I do just adventuring with one person.
Oh, yeah. That's a good way to look at it. And life's a mixed bag. So having multiple experiences with multiple people, it usually equals a great experience, or you have multiple people to climb with. So I never have to like really crash in a tent if I don't have to. I travel somewhere I usually know someone. It works out. But yeah, a buddy of mine, Will, and we spent quite 2-3 years trying to take off all the major routes in Black Velvet Canyon and Las Vegas. Definitely climbed quite a bit out in Colorado on the western slopes and on the Front Range. I was just in Seattle, actually, just climbing for my birthday, bouldering out in Leavenworth. So, I've definitely had multiple adventures with multiple friends, and I try to just keep my schedule pretty stacked with them, so I stay excited. Nice. So, tell listeners a little bit about HighPoint Expeditions. I'm sure folks may not know.
HighPoint Expeditions is a local guiding company based out of DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth. And we are a educational company. So we offer mainly 2 services: clinics, teaching people how to do outdoor climbing and trad climbing, traditional climbing, placing cams, gears, nuts, so on and so forth. We do a sport climbing clinic, and then we do a top roping clinic. And then we also do a multi-pitch clinic. The trad clinic is a 2-day clinic, so is the multi-pitch. And both of those are done in the Wichita Wildlife Refuge out in Lawton, Oklahoma. Our local sport climbing clinics are either done at Radburns Ranch in Austin or down at Mineral Well State Park here. And then our top rope clinics are done at the same time. And then we just teach people the basic skills to help encourage them and go outside and get outside, because that's kind of my passion. And that was our passion for kind of going at this. And then we offer days of climbing. Obviously, if someone wants just a guide to take them out and take them rock climbing, they want to have a great day, then we're available. And those are the 2 main services we do. We do a little bit of consulting on the side. We're working with Mountain Time Expo, which is an expo that's happening here in Dallas in October. And so we're consulting with them on setting up their climbing, more adventure side of the expo. And so we do a little other things. I like to kind of keep my options open. And, that's just kind of how I am.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And so you guys obviously you do trips on your own, but you do other multi-day, through HighPoint Expeditions, do you organize a week-long adventure kind of thing?
No, not really. Honestly, we started off trying to do a lot of that in the beginning. And, if you're familiar with the geography of Dallas, Texas, there is not much for mountains around.
You got to go pretty far.
Yeah, it's a concrete jungle. I mean, everyone's always like, "Oh, why don't you go to Waco Tanks in El Paso?" And I'm like, "You mean a 9.5-hour drive?" And people just don't realize how big the state of Texas really is.
Yeah, it's massive.
We don't do as much as that as we used to. We do partner with other like nonprofits and do stuff like that, like Escalante Fronteras, or if I said that correctly, my Spanish is horrible.
Right to me.
Or Move Mountains, which is based in Monterey, with an Mad Rock athlete named Tiffany Hainsley. We'll organize trips down to Monterey, and we'll work with like a local guiding service, and we'll work with local organizations down there we'll organize multi-day trips for the sole purpose of raising money for their nonprofit to help their initiatives to help kids stay in school. So that's kind of like as far as multi-day trips that we do. Outside of that, we just sat down and we thought about it, and we just realized like our passion is more educating people to get outside and encouraging people to go outside. And so if someone really wants us to do a trip, we won't say no. Yeah. But in the long run, we realized it just wasn't in the best interest of our company. We want to focus on really just empowering people to be bold and get outside.
That's smart. That's good, because it's a lot of energy and resources to put that together and then pull it off. And then when you get back, you still got to go back and do the day-to-day, but you're whipped. So, yeah.
Yeah. Smart. And doing that day in and day out. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the concept of it, right? But I want to see the industry grow as a whole, and I feel like what we're doing now is far more effective.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So, what was the catalyst behind starting HighPoint? How did you come up with that idea?
Honestly, my buddy Will Brock and I were driving back from Austin for a day of climbing, and we were just sitting there. We're like, man, we wish we could rock climb all the time. And we're like, why don't we start a guiding company to fund our rock climbing adventures, which I'm sure that conversation has happened between two boneheaded rock climbers multiple
times, right?
Yeah, so we're like, this is a great idea. Let's do this. Oh, yeah, we're going to rock climb all the time.
I think every outdoor industry business probably started that way between two guys, whether it's let's make some apparel or let's start a footwear company.
Yeah, so that was the original idea. And we got into it, and, we were doing it a little bit, doing a lot of little local trips. Like I said, we were going to Vegas a lot and climbing off of our income. We were doing some trips in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Alabama, all around us, Colorado. And at some point in time, it kind of turned from just two dudes making some money rock climbing to two dudes who actually have a legitimately booked schedule for like 4 or 5 months out of work. And it wasn't like work here, work there. And so at some point in time, I can't really tell you when, but that's when Will and I decided to kind of start traveling 2 separate paths with the company. He's in Colorado. He lives there now. He works in adventure therapy, and we are working on he's trying to get his, his license. There's a license that you need to have in order to do venture therapy and leadership out there. Okay. And so we're trying to get set up so he can work with local organizations so we can start offering adventure therapy to at-risk youth and things out there. And then I realized quickly here, I had to be the managing partner here on the ground. And so we still work together quite often. We still climb together quite often, but we just kind of realized this thing is getting bigger than just great. Two dudes trying to rock climb.
No, congratulations. That's awesome. How many years have you been doing it now?
It's funny. My wife was just talking to me about that, and Audra asked me that, and I told her, I was like, I really think it's either 5 or 6, give or, what is it,
Yeah.
It's either 5 or 6, give or take one. And, everyone always asks me, like, how do you not know how long you've been in business? I'm like, it's just been fun.
Yeah.
Like,
awesome.
It's been so fun. I don't even think about it anymore.
This also all runs together. That's terrific. Yeah. What were some of the challenges getting it going off the ground in the early days?
I was thinking about that actually. And, in all honesty, it was really just running a business. I come from a long line of, self-employed, and being self-employed is not running a business. Right. Like I had to make a strong distinction between those two. Just because you're self-employed does not mean you run a business. It means you're a businessman, but you don't run a business.
Well, you're more of a free agent. So if you're just yourself, you just have to manage yourself, and you don't have to manage other people. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And I think that was like the biggest learning curve. Like once I became the managing partner and business kept on growing and bringing on other employees, training guys, training people underneath me, really just learning the day-to-day of a business was the challenging part for me, because it's kind of like I tell my clients. I have a lot of people in the climbing gym where clients always ask me, like, what do I need to train for to be able to do this rock climb? I want to go to Mount Whitney and I want to climb a big climb. And I always tell people, train for the hike. The hike is the hardest part of any rock climbing trip. Yeah, the one thing I hate more than anything else, but the hike is the hardest part. The climbing part is easy. And the same thing applies to running a business. Running your business is easy. Yeah. That's like the easiest part in the world. The hardest part was finding a pool of mentors to really kind of pull through. And it's kind of the same philosophy I have for climbing partners. I have a pool of climbing partners that I'll pull from. I have a pool of mentors that have just been really gracious and been giving me their phone number and be like, call me anytime, any day if you have a question.
Who are some of those people?
You know,
anybody related to the outdoor industry? Any retailer?
My buddy Darren, who works at Polar Tech.
Okay.
So who introduced us. So Darren has definitely been a big light. Yeah, he's been a big lifeline and just answering some questions. A buddy of mine named Howard Perlman. He has nothing to do actually with the outdoor industry. He's just an adventure capitalist. Like he just invests in different companies. And I've actually found that like not really having all your mentors and your people you pull from in the same industry has actually been kind of a golden ticket for me.
That's a great thing. Yeah.
I have a good client of mine. She is a wealth manager and she looks at things very differently. And she gives me perspectives that as a risk-taking rock climber, I would never think of. So that's been the biggest thing that I think has like made my company and almost broke me from not really being willing or knowing when to ask for help and ask for advice from people who've been doing things a lot longer.
And have you, are these people like a board of directors? Do you meet formally with them, or it's just kind of like, call them when you have a question and they check in every once in a while?
Call them when I have a question. I try to have coffee with them on a regular basis. They're friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I think mentors, and much like friends, mentors and friends go hand in hand. These are people that you have genuine relationship with, and there's different degrees of relationships, but there's no board of directors or anything like that. These are just people that, we've had a beer together or sipped on some whiskey around a campfire or just climbed together in the gym. And, I've been, I've kind of had to work up the nerve and just be like, hey, I know we're just climbing, but I know this is your profession, but can I ask you a professional question? Yeah. And, a lot of times 90% of people I've found want to help and want an answer a question. And people who don't. And you just respect those boundaries.
Sure. Right. Yeah. So what have been some of your most enjoyable adventures over the years? Or epic, if you want to flip that around, we could talk about epic adventures. Up to you.
Epic. My most epic adventure would probably have to be Will and I were climbing in Las Vegas a few years ago. And we just finished climbing out at Solar Slab. We were just kind of deciding, we were like, all right, we want to do Levitation 29, a super classic Lynn Hill route. So we'll climb Solar Slab. We'll do Johnny Vegas to Solar Slab, which is 1,000-foot slab, and get to the top of it just so we know where we're going. As we were hiking there, we were wondering, I wonder if the gully, going up the gully is faster. Well, we decided to take up the gully, which was the worst decision in the world. Always rock climb. It's way better. And so we spent most of our day doing that. On the way back, we were walking back and we got back to the parking lot and we realized the car was gone.
What?
And his car had gotten stolen.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we were like freaking out, like kind of like, where's the car? Did we park it here? I was like, where'd you leave the keys?
Are we delirious? Did we lose the car? Right.
Yeah. We're just like totally wigging out. And, the park service came by. We ended up filing a report. We ended up it was just a mess, and we ended up chain smoking a carton of cigarettes that week. I know this is probably something I shouldn't say. We were so stressed.
Wow.
It was one of those times where we were just like, something, forget it. And, I think it was the first time we were jumping down each other's throats, but that experience honestly, bonded us because we were like, all right, well, we have X amount of access to X amount of capital, so let's just rent a minivan. And we finished the rest of our adventure trying to put together. It was our second year coming back, trying to finish this route called Texas Hold'em, which is a gorgeous 11C, probably one of the best routes in the park of Las Vegas. I would argue the 11Cs in the park. It's in Black Velvet Canyon, and we ended up finishing that, and then just driving home. And it was the most epic adventure absolutely ever. It was wild.
Yeah, and those epics, they either cement the relationship or break it up.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of
we realized that trip. the house always wins in Vegas.
Yeah. Wow, what a bummer. Car stole. Did you ever find it? Did you find the car and the gear or anything?
Oh, yeah. They found it, shot up with holes in it, slashed tires on the other side of the desert. And, you know, when we found this car and we flew back to help drive it back, that's actually funny you say cementing a relationship. We just started laughing hysterically, just looking at the car torn to shreds.
Wow.
And they were like, oh, we could have done a way better job than that. Give us a machine gun. Right. I was like, these guys who stole the cars just wrecked it like little pansies. Whatever. This is horrible. There's no funny spray paint. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, nice. So tell us about some nonprofits. You mentioned you work with some nonprofits. Who are some of those folks that you help out?
So I mentioned Escalante Fronteras, Move Mountains, which are based in Mexico. Those are organizations that offer educational, like tutoring, psychotherapy, and just counseling, keeping kids, local indigenous and Mexican kids in Monterey off the streets by teaching them how to rock climb and giving them opportunities and access to larger rock climbing trips. And then, so that's one thing that HighPoint does directly. Myself, my wife and I, Audra, started an event, a company called the BOSS Festival, BAWS, BOSS, and it stands for Badass Women in Sports. And nice. So we host small little film festivals here in Dallas to raise money for the event. And then we offer clinics. So like this year, we offered a climbing clinic. The year before, we offered a climbing clinic this year with Tiffany. The year before, we offered a climbing clinic with Hazel Finley. We also offered a slacklining clinic with Heather Larson. And so the whole goal is to grow the outdoor industry, but in showing that women have a place, women are badass, and 9 times out of 10, women are better at certain things than men. And I'll openly admit that, and no shame in there.
That's awesome.
And and so that is the nonprofit that we started. My wife's the president, I'm the VP of it, and then we run that with some awesome women and guys here in Dallas. And the only other thing I do is I am the co-chairman of the North Texas chapter of the American Alpine Club. So I run that chapter from here, and I have a great partner that I work with, good friend of mine named Zach Reedy. He runs a pack company here in Dallas. And so it's a lot going on, but they all kind of intertwine if you kind of see the web that
they are intermixed. Yeah, that's good. You're a busy guy, though. So how long has the BOSS Festival been going on? That's very cool.
We're going on year 3 now.
Great.
Going on year 3. We had our 2 festivals here. We're working on having our 3rd one in Miami. We're partnering with a gym called Coral Cliffs. We're going to be hosting it out there. And then we are trying to have a winter festival in Colorado. I'm still negotiating the deals yet, so I can't kind of say where it will be, but hopefully if it happens, it'll be somewhere out around Fort Collins.
Very cool. Well, there'll be links to all the stuff in the show notes so people can find the websites and check it out and get involved if they'd like. That's awesome. So do you have any suggestions or advice for folks either wanting to get into the biz, start a biz, grow their career in the outdoor recreation biz, really, or climbing or work retail, whatever it might be? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just kind of try it all out. First and foremost, get a low-level job, like working in REI or being an assistant guide in an office, or just kind of make sure you like it first. Because I know for a lot of people, and I'm going to go ahead and admit I'm a rare bird. The harder I work at my guiding company, the more I am inspired to rock climb. And for most people, it's like working at a restaurant. The more you work at a restaurant, the more you don't like the food that's there.
You don't want to cook,
Yeah, you just don't want to do it. And so I find that some people really get burned out. And I've watched really great climbers, enthusiastic people get into the business and get burned out because they just went hard right in the beginning. So my best advice is try it out. Whatever you're deciding, try it all out. Even the things that you like, I would never be interested in working as a rep. Just try it. I mean, try it for a little bit. If it doesn't work out for you, move on. But that's how you'll find what you love.
Yeah.
And then there you will start finding people and things that will set you in motion to pursue your dream or pursue whatever avenue you're going for. So that would be my best advice. Don't take your time. It's not a race.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, because if you try generally something's going to trip your trigger, right? It might, you might get into climbing and meet somebody that wants to take you rafting, and it's rafting that really gets you excited, not climbing. So you're right. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I have a buddy, my wife's buddy, moved to Vegas to start rock climbing even more, and now he is the most avid mountain biker I've ever met in my life. Doesn't even rock climb anymore. He found his true calling, as he calls it.
That's cool. And what other outdoor activities do you participate in other than climbing?
Realistically, just rock climbing. I'm not gonna lie there. I mean, I am a great sit around by the campfire kind of guy and drink some whiskey. That I do real well. Swinging in a hammock, I got that sport down.
Yeah.
But honestly, if there's not a rock at the end of the trail, I'm generally not very interested in doing it. Like all things rock climbing, mountaineering, basically rock climbing, I'm really
cool. Yeah.
I kind of narrow my focus that way. I kind of find it keeps the fire kind of going alive for it.
There you go.
I do a lot of cross training outside of that, just to kind of stay fit and kind of keep me motivated too, but really just rock climbing.
Yeah, got it. No, that makes sense. Do you have any, obviously you stay fit through training. Do you have any other daily routines you use to keep your sanity? Do you meditate? Obviously.
Actually, there's an app I use. I am not affiliated with these guys in any way, shape, or form, but Headspace is a really great app that I use for. Yeah, the thing is, like, it's been a game changer. Yeah. It's been a really good kind of sound of mind. But yeah, I meditate, and then I do a pretty standard routine. I follow a book called Simple and Sinister. There's a Russian guy. I think his name is Palto. I butcher his name. Right. I'm not the greatest with them.
I'll look it up.
But Palto, Simple and Sinister is the book and the routine that I follow. And then I kind of mix it up, but I'm a big fan of kettlebells. I'm a big fan of high intensity training, and I write my own training programs. Also, on top of, I run the adults training programs at all the gyms here in Texas. So that's kind of the big thing that I do on the side. And I kind of have a sweet ritual. I train 3 days a week, take 2 days off as rest. And those are really the things, meditate and general fitness, and staying on top of those two things kind of really keep me ready for the outdoors.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I use Headspace a lot. It's I'm in daily. It's just, it's such a simple way, and he's got some great varied programs in there. You can switch it up. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. And so you mentioned Simple and Sinister. Do you have any other favorite books, or do you give books as gifts very often?
Yeah, actually, I kind of have. So all my climbing coaches, I have a little book club with them, and I require them all to read some books.
Nice.
So Simple and Sinister is definitely one. It's a great book. With winning in mind, I cannot remember the name of the author right now. But it's a great book. Probably one of the best coaching books I've ever read in my life. And I would love to take credit that I discovered the book for myself, but I did not. The owner of our company, Kyle Clintscales, actually recommended I read the book. And it was an utter game changer in my coaching and my perspective and how I look at coaching. And it's worth the read. I've read it 3 times, and I try to read it once a year. So it's that good. And then
that's with Winning
the Sweet Spot. Yeah, Winning in Mind.
Coaching book. Okay, got you.
Yeah, Winning in Mind.
Okay, got you.
And then there's another book called The Sweet Spot: How to Find Your Groove at Home and at Work. Okay. And that book is probably the second book that I gift the most to people, because I find for a lot of us that want to do a lot, simplifying even more the rest of our life even more is fundamental. And that book really goes through, as a single mom who wrote the book, and she really just goes down a lot of stuff I was already doing, but really explains how to kind of streamline and simplify some daily things in your life so you can really focus on the things that matter to you.
Yeah, that's great. There's been a lot of articles in Men's Journal and other places about how some of these really high-performing people have just eliminated all the distraction out of the rest of their life, which allows them to perform at such a high level. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, I would 100% agree with that. I mean, from this book, I wear the same uniform to work every day. I mean, it's a series of shirts.
Yeah.
I've streamlined my meals down to my wife and I cook in a crock pot. And so we know our training day meals are all coming out of a crock pot because it's just so simple to cook. We can cook large quantities of it. We can still do that. I have certain days that I make sure this is my day that I fill up the gas tank in my car, but it's also the day that I run certain errands. And it's like, I find something to do on that day. If I don't have anything to do on that day, then I'll meditate longer. But sticking to these certain little things and really just cutting out a lot of other stuff, it has made performing at a high level far easier. I agree.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to do that. I do some of that stuff, but not all of it. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to read about and learn what other people do too. It's pretty cool. So do you have any favorite a favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Yeah, actually I have well, so within the last year, there's been actually a couple items. Each item is under $100. So I'm going to mention this. The first item, full disclosure, I am a sponsored athlete by these guys, and is Beyond Clothing based out of Seattle, Washington. These guys are awesome. They make an A1 base layer pullover, and it's just like a quarter zip. And I used to have one from another company from a long time ago, and it was a great piece of gear, but it was always a little too hot, or I could never wear it every day. And their having a comfortable base layer and be willing to spend up to $100. Like your clothing gear is just as important as your quick draws. And I teach that in my clinics. People skimp on quality clothing all the time because they're like, well, I just want to get the really good gear. And I'm like, your clothing that you wear and your weather, the weather hazards that you have are probably far more dangerous than the actual climbing hazards that you're going to do.
The right apparel will save your life sometimes.
Yeah. So having a great base layer that you can wear in warm conditions, cold conditions, that acts as a sun guard or something that does keep you warm is been a game changer, because being comfortable while you're doing your activities is, it's so important.
Oh, we'll link to that.
Another piece of equipment, which I would say is just my favorite thing since sliced bread, is belay goggles. Okay. I love them. I don't go climbing without them. Like, they look like these little prisms that you wear in front of your eyes, and they allow you to look forward and see up. So,
interesting.
They're pretty cool. A company that I like is called Y&Y belay goggles. You can buy them on Amazon. They're just around like $50-$60, but they have been the lifesaver, especially on long routes when you're hanging in a belay and you're not always trying to bend your head back and look and lean around. You can just kind of lean back a little bit and you can see. And some of them magnify, so you can still see a good portion of your partner while they're, like 10 feet up in me. They still look like they're fairly close.
What a concept. I haven't climbed in years, but I remember back when I climbed, you sit there on the floor just craning your neck and you end up with a crooked neck all week. What a great idea, man! Awesome.
Yeah, those days are gone, my friend. Those days, you should come back to rock climbing.
Yeah, well, I got other things
about that.
Yeah, I got other things that are keeping me from rock climbing. Bad joints.
Fair enough. And then the last piece of equipment would be a pair of belay gloves. I never really thought belay gloves were actually a really important thing at all, and I was gifted them by my wife. And I was like, I am an idiot. This is the best thing since sliced bread.
Nice.
As well.
All right.
Well, I like bread.
We'll look to all that. Yeah, right. No, that's awesome. Yeah, the belay goggle thing is a great idea. I never heard of it. So it shows you how long I've been out of climbing. So as we go to wrap here, is there anything else you'd like to ask or say to our audience?
I would like to say to your audience, I would encourage them to, and this is kind of my charge to everybody, do something bold, do something scary, whether it's like, taking your dog for a walk or heading to a park, or going on a bike ride, or, trying to climb in the boogaloos, wherever, just go do something bold, and whatever that is to you, and do something outside. I think it will encourage people and empower people to do bigger and better things. Because once you do that, it seems small. And then the next thing doesn't seem so big.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I would like to say to your audience, because I know that's kind of how it was for me. I did something that seemed so monumental. And after doing it, I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. All right, let's go to a bigger wall and a bigger wall.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't always have to be rock climbing. It can be anything in life, but just do something that's a little scary and it will seem easy later on. Be bold.
Perfect. And how can people reach out to you if they want to follow up? Is it email best or LinkedIn? What's the best way?
Email works great. My email is pretty easy. It's Mario@HighPoint Expeditions. So feel free to email me with any questions. I also have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Our Twitter account is HP Expeditions, HP, and then Expeditions, the whole word with the S at the end. And then our website is HighPointExpeditions.com, and then Instagram is the same thing, HighPoint Expeditions. We're pretty easy to find.
Cool. We'll link to all that stuff.
Then and so if they can find me there and ask me anything.
Great. Well, we'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. That's awesome. Well, thanks for the time, Mario. It's been great catching up with you.
Yeah, it's been great to talk to you too, Rick.
Yeah, we'll have to do a face-to-face at OR in a couple of weeks. Grab a beer.
Yeah, I would look forward to that. Yeah, I'll have a beer. I'll have a beer for you at the Beyond booth.
There you go. All right, I'll be there.
All right. Awesome.
So awesome. Well, we'll see you at OR, and I'll catch you later.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hanging out with you in OR and sharing a beer together, buddy.
Right on, man. All right, see you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Mario Stanley. You can catch up with Mario by email at mario@highpointexpeditions.com. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode 121. Be sure to hit your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. Thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos blog, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Be sure to go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the links to the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. And be sure to make time to get outside and take someone with you.